Hey, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome. Thank you for tuning in to our program, The Debate. And of course, we're very, very sorry for the delay. And we are hoping that we are going to make it up to you. We're sorry for the delay. Um, our host of today is had some challenges, and that's why we are here, and I'm hoping that he's going to join us very, very soon. And yeah, that's the challenge we have, working with at the international level, and especially when our partners also are in the African continent and are supposed to also do the work that we want them to do. But I'm happy that we are going on live now and that we are starting the program. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being always attentive, and thank you for giving us the gift of your time. What are we going to do without you? Thank you so very much. And you're welcome, Mr. Elvis Bolifor, who is the
Thank
host
you
of today's
so
program.
much.
And thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you so much. Happy to be there. Got some small hitches. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for those who trust in our programs and they are there already. Just like usual, we are happy to have all of you on board. And today we'll be looking at a very special topic. Remember, I'm your host, Molifo Elvis, and today our topic is a continent free from all kinds of oppression, including racial discrimination. And our question we're asking ourselves this day is, can African stakeholders unitedly find a solution to these problems? And we were having our special guest today, Madame Sompon Vera, who is hosting equally a program on racism. And we would like to know from her what actually prompted her to, organize a program like this. And that is really, born on our necks, racism. Everybody talks of racism, and you know what it means when you have racism practiced either internationally or nationally. So, ma'am, some point, what prompted you? You are hosting a program on racism every Thursday, of course. What prompted you? What is your motivation about this topic, racism?
Thank you very much, Mr. Bolifo. Thank you for being the host today. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. And yes, my name is Vera Sompon, and I'm hosting the program, the debate, the Racism Talk. The idea behind Racism Talk was because after the death of George Floyd on the 20th of May and the 25th of May, please, 2020, we realized that the idea, the problems, or the system of racism has not been changed since 400 years. And so for us, it was a way to create awareness in the community, not just creating awareness, but keep the conversation going so that people can be healed, others can be aware of the trauma that racism is causing to the victims. And of course, like Mandela said, both parties need healing, be it the oppressed or again the oppressor. So we both need some sort of healing and some sort of liberation. And that's why I think that the conversation of racism is a conversation not to point accusing fingers on anyone, on any government or any systems, but it is a platform to awaken, to create awareness of the evil systems and injustice that is going in the world, going on in the world, and of course help also the victims to come out of that trauma, because I know and I believe strongly that uh, racism causes trauma in the society. And as long as we do not talk about it, then the trauma continues, meaning that we are there, but we are sick most of the time because of the unspoken pains that we are carrying day in, day out. So the reason for creating the conversation is one, to create awareness on the subject of racism. Two, to give space for the victims to get healed from their trauma. And of course, three, to be able to eradicate the evil systems that has been created by racism, and for with the hoping and with the intention that both parties, be it the oppressed or the oppressor, that they get healed from whatever mindset in which they are. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for that brief introduction about your motivation and equally what racism causes. But then I have a second question that I would like to know from you. You know, the issue of racism touches Africans in and out of the continent. Do you think it is necessary to create awareness about this issue of racism from the tender ages so that children should grow up knowing actually that racism is not good? Because somebody said that racism is not taught, that children grow to see and practice it. Nobody is teaching somebody racism. So maybe it is inborn because you begin to see that the same race, Africans, for example, fighting against themselves, that this one is not from my place. It becomes a question. So do you think if we teach the cons of racism from tender ages, we will be solving a solution about this issue of racism so that when we are growing up, or when our children are growing up, they know that everybody is a human being and everybody deserves to be wherever he or she is. What is your take about this issue if we have to teach our children from tender ages?
Thank you very much. This is a brilliant question. And I think that most of the time we forget the power of teaching and training. And I think that training should begin from a very, very early age. But before I get to answering the question of if we should teach or if we should not teach, I think that we have to go back to really define what is racism. We understand that racism is the aspect of putting one other race superior to the other race, right? So the white race feels that they are superior to the black race or to any other race. Is that so? Yes. Now, the effect of racism is that we have internalized and accepted consciously or again unconsciously that there is a certain group of people that are more better and important in superior to another group of people, right? Now, and then on the third point, we have deshumanize another group of people. We have consciously destroyed a set of people, a group of people, Africans, black people in particular. We have put them to be nobody or put them at the last stage of the race, so to say, right? Now, you are asking the question, is it a good thing to start the training as early as possible to teach the people their identity? Of course, yes. How important would that be if we knew from childhood who we truly are? Our identity as a black person is not being defined by what another human being has defined according because of the egos. No, we should let the young person understand that they are so important. They are on this earth for a specific reason. They are wonderfully made, they are beautifully made, and every other thing that and every other ideology, every other thought that wants to reduce them to nothing should be eradicated if necessary. And therefore, yes, sir, we should teach young people from childhood that racism, injustice, discrimination of any kind is evil and it destroys relationships. And that, of course, we are not judged by the skin of our color. That is a taboo, and that should be seen as taboo. And therefore, we should teach our young people as early as possible that injustice is not correct, that injustice is sin, and racism is injustice.
Thank you so much. Racism is injustice, and we begin to see that so glaring in our society. How some people think that they are more human, and you talked of dishumanizing people, looking at others as being inferior human beings, which is really a deplorable situation. Thinking that you are made from God's image and that you are as beautiful as God wanted to be, while somebody who is equally made from God thinks that you are not human enough, become really deplorable. And I begin to think how people survive that type of situation when you have to think deep inside you that you are not as human as another person. It becomes really something depressing. Thank you so much for
And
letting
that's
us
the more
know.
reason. That's the more reason why we have to talk about this as often as possible, so that those who are in that position understand that no, they are humans and they are created really in the image of their God, and it really doesn't matter which of the gods that you believe in.
Thank you so much again for that clarification. So, we are images of God and we are made beautifully in God's image. So, we should teach our children from tender ages that every human being has the same value and should be respected, because that equally racism goes with disrespect. When you disrespect another human being, you begin to see that there is discrimination and you don't put or place that human being at the same level like yourself. So, thank you so much. I think those who are watching us live on Facebook and on YouTube who have been practicing racism, of course, with their own fellow brothers, be them whites, be them blacks, will be learning today that racism has no place in the human race, because all of us are humans and we deserve the same respect and must be respected and treated properly by everyone. Thank you so much. And I wish to ask you equally, do you think an African is safe and free in Africa, regardless of the region, as when we are talking about racism? Are Africans free from racism? Let us consider Africa, because maybe we want to talk of Africa and Europe, you start seeing color differences and you think that, oh, the race is different and so racism should exist. While we are saying today that it must not exist because we are all humans. Do you think Africans are safe from racism?
This is a very interesting question. The question is, what is racism? If we understand racism, we know that racism is an ideology. But more to just being an ideology, racism is also a issue of power. And in German, they say Macht. It's power, authority, power, hierarchy. And it's also on resources, right? So racism is not only the ideology that the one race is superior to the other. Racism is also that, um how do I put this so that we fit the context? Racism is also when you are being deprived of the resources that were meant for us all, and you are being deprived of it, right? And then, thirdly, we also say that, yes, if we have internalized racism as being making one person dehumanizing one person, then, of course, racism too is also being practiced in Africa. Of course, that's why Mandela was in South Africa. I remember apartheid was in South Africa. It's not long that apartheid has been fought against and removed from the system. I still wonder if it has really been completely removed from the system. But remember, the consequences of racism still is very, 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 very alive, because the consequences of racism is the fact that we have internalized it. We have become unconsciously that which the ideology of racism has made us to be. Now, let's look at Africa. In Africa, we have different regions, different kinds of people, we have different colors. We will not talk about racism without also mentioning that, even though it is not all about it. That's why Mandela said some time ago that he is ready to fight with his blood white supremacy and black supremacy. It means that there is also black supremacy. Now, if you come back to the question, is there racism in Africa? Of course, yes, there is racism. There's a black supremacy in Africa, and therefore there's injustice going on in Africa, and this also should be eradicated. Let's take the case of Libya. Some few months back, we saw that some black people were being sold as slaves. What is that? I mean, this is taking us back to the fight that we fought, and it was eradicated many, many years back, 300, 400 years back. And then we are seeing that in the continent of Africa, with and amongst the African people. Libya is an African country, but remember, the aspect of superiority also runs in their blood. So they feel that they are important, superior than the black person. There comes again the race and the color, because it has been internalized that there's a particular skin color that is more important. than another. That is the reason why you see more women or human beings are bleaching their bodies. Why do they bleach their bodies? Because it has been internalized that the skin that is fairer is beautiful. The skin that is fairer has more privileges. The skin that is
Mhm.
fairer looks attractive, is good. And therefore, if you are in that position, you feel important, you feel good, you feel like you are the one better than the other. And of
Mm.
course, that happens also in Africa. Therefore, yes, in Africa, we have racism being practiced there consciously or unconsciously. And this too should be eradicated through awareness, through teachings, through this kind of conversations that we are having now, and many other possibilities.
Thank you so much. You talked of black. Remember the words of Professor Lumumba, who was having a talk with some students in the Gambia, and he said, "The black suit is beautiful, the black gown is beautiful, black shoes are beautiful, but Africans don't value the black color that they have." And he concluded by saying that black was very beautiful. So if Africans are racist among themselves, then something is wrong somewhere. And you said equally that it's problem of the mind, and that racism was a concept. I mean that somebody can decide to make it his or her concept, but we are condemning the fact today with the help of Mam Sompon, who has been talking so much and having many guests on her program, Racism, and they are denouncing the effects of racism. And you can see how racism goes across with so many ills, be it the person, be it the children, be it the family, and be it even countries suffering from racism. So thank you so much. If Africans have to suffer from racism, then we will still come back to this issue of racism just for Africa and see how we can address it and bring out some of the ills that we are facing as far as discrimination in Africa is concerned. And that takes me to my next question, which is actually looking at discrimination. And the question I want to ask is, do you think racism could be among the older forms of discrimination that could be wiped off from Africa by 2063? Or better still, is the problem deeper than it appears?
Oh, it is deeper than it appears. I mean, it is deeper. When we talk about the issue of the mind, anything that has to do with the mind is a very, very tough one to heal. And therefore, it takes a lot of time, a lot of processing, a lot of work to do. So I think it is a hope, the wish, the desire of the African and the Africans, and of course, backed up by the African Union, that by 2063, that all forms of discrimination, injustice should be eradicated. But I tell you, I'm hoping, I'm praying that it should be so. We will continue the work, and I think that. To get to that point, it needs a conscious effort, it needs conscious awareness, it needs conscious talking about it, it needs purposefully talking about it. Because if we do not talk about it consciously, purposefully, then we may still leave it in the hands of the nature. I remember some years back when I began doing the work of talking about racism and its injustice and psychological effect on the black people, especially in my city where I am in Germany. One of the we call that Stadtverwaltung. One of the government workers looked at me one day and told me, "Oh, Vera, just leave the story. Time will change everything." And I said, "No, time cannot change. If time would have just changed it without human beings talking about it, then we would not have been talking about it now 400 years after slavery was abolished, right? So time is not going to change it if people are not behind with concepts to write and tell the people and train the people, teach the people, create awareness, talk about it every day. It is not a sin to talk about injustice every day, in as much as we know that it is not good, that it creates sicknesses, it creates disability in families, in homes, in the community. Then we have to talk about it. If by 2063 it will be completely eradicated, we leave it all to God. But I know that if we work to it consciously, purposefully, we will be able to sensibilize more people, and we can get more people talk about injustice of any kind.
Thank you so much. Racism is injustice. And that was prompting me to reason. You see, you said it's a mentality, and I want to think that some Africans are really pushing the knot so hard, because you find an African will not want to give, or to offer a contract to a black person, but he is ready to pay double that
White race.
amount to a white person or to a white race. And so, is that another form of discrimination, which can be qualified as racism? Black being racist against his own brother and taking somebody who is not of his race, though we have said that the race doesn't matter. Can that be some form of discrimination?
Of
That
course, we
blacks don't
said.
believe in blacks.
Yes, of course. We said before that what is racism? We said is ideology of supremacy. Who brought up this ideology? The white man. He brought this ideology. Why did he bring this ideology? To make the black human feel that they are not human, they are not beautiful, they are not able, they are not good, and all that. Now, what happened? They systemized it, they put it in systems, in books, in their structures. And when you go to their structures, you learn that. We learn that in school. Their schools, they have put their schools in the continent. In the African continent is a white school still governing. The white man's school that is still governing there, and therefore their ideology is still being propagated, even though they are no longer in Africa that much, but their ideology is still being propagated in books, in schools. When you read books, I read history, for example. Which of the history did I learn more? I learned the history, the German history about Adolf Hitler. Who was Adolf Hitler, by the way? When you start to rethink what he did, he was one of those who propagated actually racism in a more terrible manner. And yet we applaud him in our history rather than teaching the history of the our heroes, teaching the history of Martin Luther King, who taught the people how to be able to appreciate, love themselves. Teach the histories of those who fought for independence. Kwame Nkrumah, we have not talked about their history. We have not spoken about the histories of those who fought for the liberty of slaves. We are not teaching our people this history, right? So, therefore, all these things are being internalized. What happens? We learn that in school, we learn that in the books. Now, the consequences is this. When I meet my fellow black person, when I am not aware and I'm not conscious of the system behind racism, what do? I prefer a white and another person to him. Why? Because racism consciously or unconsciously created a form of hate for my likeness, right? So it is a thing that has been created and backed up, a concept that has been created,
Yeah.
backed up with systems, and the systems are books, and then consequences is we have internalized it, we have unconsciously accepted it. Even when we do not want it, we only realize that we just start doing it. It means that it takes a conscious effort, and that's why such conversations are so important, because it takes a conscious effort to say no, despite what you think, say about my black brother, sister, whatever, I still stand for them. I will give them the contract, I will give them the jobs, because one of our heroes said, if you take the economic power, or we are where we are because we do not have the economic power. And again, it is a system that has been internalized so that we think getting the white man makes it beautiful. We have a lot of work to do, and we have to go to all these companies, teach them. I was talking before and sharing before. I am working one of my colleague and friend, Abeke Bameto, Helena Beckham, and with the company Pamoja Farm, they have come out with an amazing concept, the concept of awareness. So, what does awareness does? Awareness is out there to train governments, to train people, systems, universities, whatever, to know and to understand the difference between And then of course we also have they also have the second part, that is to empower the victims. And therefore, if we empower the victims could be those who are perpetuating this kind of um, discrimination unconscious to them. 2000 and a few years back, I went to Cameroon, and when I was in Cameroon, I I spoke to some business people who had the same concept that you just said. They wanted to have some Europeans come and manage their structure, and I looked at them, and fortunately for me, while I was doing the training in those companies, one Frenchman was in that company, and we had a conversation. And I realized that this Frenchman was a retired Frenchman who was even jobless before, and he was doing a lot of maybe volunteers, which is a good thing, but he had no specific job. And now he's on retirement. He came to Cameroon, and he was telling me he's looking for a job and a position of a director. And I was looking at him when he was talking. I said, "Excuse me, you want to have a position of director? What qualifications do you have?" And so he was telling me about all the volunteers work he has done, which is good. It's not a problem. And an institution was ready to pay that person. And until I had to create awareness, and I told them, how do you feel paying someone who don't have the qualification of another black person in your country, and you want to give them this doubled money and they won't do any work? All you are doing at this moment is you are propagating again discrimination and the white supremacy. And you are doing this in your own country. This will be actually a shame that you should continue to propagate white supremacy in your country. Why don't you make it other way around? In most countries in Europe or in Germany in particular, when you have a structure like I have the right to employ Africans and then come other people if I want to. So I said, you know what? You can do the same. You can employ the white person if you want to have a white European in your structure by all means, but he can also be a caretaker. He can be the one driving the passengers or the clients. Would that not be a good thing? Right? God, thank God that he understood. They listened with attention, and it became clear to them. And today they are doing fantastically well, even without any white face in their structure. Right. So, the why is this happening? It's because racism has been internalized. We have
Mhm.
unconsciously carried that in us, and it is so graven in our minds that it takes a lot of conscious living to get out and to break through from such a system.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. By 2063, we are hoping to have a nation, a world, a continent without discrimination. And you said that racism has been internalized, that we out unconsciously or consciously practice racism, even discrimination, even amongst our brothers, without knowing that blacks too can be qualified when we come to the aspect of giving jobs. Like I said, some Africans prefer giving jobs to Europeans, and I am sure that during interviews, they don't bother about the qualification. Once he has presented himself as a white, they are just okay to give him the job. And I was tempted equally to ask again, how do Africans who are in Europe and other countries, like you mentioned, how do they feel when they are discriminated about? What is the effect of discrimination on their personality and even on the way they live their lives in these countries where discrimination is so vivid? It's an everyday talk. When you're going out, you are sure that somebody must discriminate against you. Unlike in Africa, personally, I have not witnessed racism, maybe in other form, maybe tribalism, which is something that can be common in local places. But then, Africans who are in Europe, how do they cope with racism on a daily basis, of course?
Before I answer this question, I think that we should not cope with any form of injustice. We should not allow it. We should not really get used to it, because when we get used to any forms of injustice, we may think that it's becoming normal, and injustice should never be normal. So, be it tribalism, be it discrimination, be it any form of the zims, any form, gender, any forms of it, we should not tolerate it, and we should not take it to be even a norm in any way, because injustice in any of its form is traumatizing. So this takes me to real answer. Those who are in Europe and have experienced it, for the victims, it is traumatizing. No wonder we say racism is traumatizing. It has a psychological effect on the people. Can you imagine a scenario where you are constantly being rejected? That's what racism is all about. It's almost like we are being rejected as a human being. So you go to work, somehow you're being rejected there. You are not being, for those who are working for others, you're practically not having the chance to be and to express yourself like you really want to. Or again, you have to double your abilities, your skills, so that you can meet in or fit in certain levels. Or again, you have to do special effort so that you can just belong. So any form of rejection is traumatizing, and therefore racism is traumatizing. Effect of racism is trauma to the victims.
Okay. So racism is so traumatizing, and like you say, we should not struggle to cope with any form of discrimination, racism inclusive. Thank you so much for that submission. And I want to greet all those who are with us on Facebook. I'm seeing Mesmin, who says that is good vibes, and Emma Lambert, who equally says that liberty and justice for all may be our national aspiration, but it is not our national reality. Yeah, we are aspiring that it be our aspiration, and equally, we are hoping that it be our national and our continental reality. Remember, we are talking about 2063, Emma, and we are looking at the aspirations that are looking forward to make Africa better. Africa that even other Europeans will want to come and live in Africa, because Africa must have emerged, must have grown, and become so self reliant that it is something to write home about. Thank you so much, Mam Vera, for being there for us. And we hope that those who are watching, those who are listening, and eventually those who will watch us after this will have something to take home. We are talking about racism today, and we're looking at how our stakeholders, African stakeholders, can unitedly find a solution to this problem. And that takes me to another question. Do you think that African stakeholders and government, as well as civil societies, are handling this issue of racism correctly? Is it even in their projects? Is it even in their programs? Is it even in their bills? How are they actually handling racism?
I mean, racism is a long time disease and a long time problem that has always been. So I want to assume and come think that of course they have been tackling that issue, and we don't want to say that uh, they have not been doing anything. I mean, the case of South Africa is a proof that they have been working on that, and that's why the apartheid was abolished, right? And Nelson Mandela is an example, an epitome, I mean, an icon of the fact that racism has been, and he fought so hard, and he's our hero in that area. So they are working towards that. They have been working, but of course, there's a need to continue the work, and there's a need to persist, and of course, there's a need to work also maybe at a global level with also the diasporas, get them involved in it. And what the diasporas are also doing is also not um, uh, well, each diaspora or the diasporas are working in diverse ways and in diverse organizations. So I think that we only need to coordinate our strength and keep the work going that some of us have started. I know many organizations in the diasporas that are doing a lot of amazing things. I just mentioned Pamoja AFL that have the concept of awareness, and therefore they are interested in really helping governments to be able to be conscious and stay conscious and working to the disease called racism. I also know of Positive Africa that are doing, they come out with a series called Ubuntu. And in this series, they're really tackling the challenges of the African continent, working with the mindset. So anything that we are doing is only working towards that direction, right? And of course, we can't say that the stakeholders are not doing anything. They are, but we want to say there is a need to continue, and there's a need to be a little more louder than maybe before, and there's a need to create more space for the victims so that the victims don't feel that they are the problems, but they should rather get healed from the system. And of course, if need be, that they should really break some of the systems that has been placed to destroy the humanness.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being there for us. You always a resource person when you are invited to the program. And I was thinking, you've been hosting the debate for quite a while, and you have had so many invitees, Europeans, blacks from different parts of Africa. What have you gathered? Actually, what have you gathered from all the invitees that have come? Are they having the same idea towards racism, or some have diverse reasons that don't go along with your ideology as far as racism is concerned?
The advantage of being a host is that you select exactly who you want to have, right? That's the advantage of having a program, and the advantage of
Mm,
being a host, right? Is that
yeah.
you can also, and of course, we can see that we can. This is just an example, but this is how politics goes, right? So it
Mm,
means that we can also somehow choose the people we want to work with. And so therefore, yes, all the people I invite are the people I know that they share the ideologies that we want to propagate out there, right? The ideology that the black humans are human beings with full potentials, and that God created us all in an equal manner, all, but we all have diverse gifts and diverse abilities, and that before God there's no such thing like gender, there's no such thing like race, and there's no such thing like color and age, so when I invite someone, of course I have a conversation with that person to see if that person shares the opinion that I also share, so that we are on the same track, because we want to of course propagate also a philosophy, the philosophy that the black race is a superior race, right? It's a mother race, right? And therefore, if you want to invite someone, then you must invite someone who shares that ideology, that the African continent, the African people, is the mother race, is a mother of the nature, is a mother of the continent, because everything originated from there, right? Nonetheless, we also have diverse ways to perceive things, because we have diverse experiences. We have those that got more experiences with racism, that have experienced that themselves, and then we have those that have really had um, little experiences with that racism directly themselves. And therefore, in terms of the experiences, it could be different. So in terms of the psychological trauma, it could be different. Then we have those who are really experts, and not just the victims, but really expert in their fields, so they can really give it back that up also with concepts. And that's why we had someone like Abdul Diallo, who really gave us the concept of racism, and that's where he came up with the 4 stages, right? That is an ideology, the white supremacy ideology. It is in systems, right? So in books, in laws, and all that. and then it goes further to be internalized, and that's why we have carried that on, these things that they said that we are even when we are not. And then of course it happens now and manifests, the interactive no between human beings, right? So yes,
Mhm.
when I the advantage of being a host or having a program is that you choose with whom you want to work, and therefore the people I invite them are those that I know, of course, want to also promote the the continent, and also bring the humanness of the black people, right? We want to promote
Mhm.
that because I think that we're human beings and we deserve to be treated as one.
Thank you so much. We equally have this idea of naturalizing maybe blacks becoming Europeans, Americans, Frenchmen. When you actually naturalize in some of these countries that perpetuate and show and exercise racism, do they really take it lying down that you have come and you are now their national? How do they do it? Because I think you people now are on the same platform. Do they still, by error, express racism before maybe you use a term that shows that you are one of them? How do they take it actually? Do they enjoy it that you are one of them?
Well, if they enjoyed it, we don't want to generalize the sickness of racism, because I have very good German friends, very good European friends. So I don't want to generalize the fact that racism, that everyone in Europe and everyone in Germany is a racist. No, no, that's not what I want to say. But the thing is, we have children born in Germany, and therefore, some of them are Germans, and some of us have been nationalized. But the fact that you're nationalized doesn't change who you are. I mean, it's just a piece of paper, right? So, and
Mhm.
comes with some few advantages, or
Advantages.
maybe
Mhm.
some few door opening doors, right? But it doesn't really change. I remain a Cameroonian, and that's why if there was a possibility to say African German, then it would be best for me. Then because I know that while in Germany and I'm African, they never see on my face as Cameroonian, right? And so anywhere
Mhm.
you go, they just see an African. So it would be good if we had an African German passport, right? It would have been a brilliant, or an African European passport. Then it would have been brilliant for those who are living in this continent or in both worlds, right? So I just wanted to bring out the fact that a piece of paper doesn't determine who I really am, right? So, and that's why it's important again to really work on identity so people know who they really are, even though with a piece of paper, you can still choose who you are. And therefore, even those who are we have black Germans, those who are born here and they speak the language, they eat the food, they go to school here, they think German, they feel German, they sleep German, they do everything German. They are Germans, right? And they are you don't want to take that from them, right? No, you don't want to take that from them. So everyone to each of us, our identities, and the piece of paper doesn't really I tell who I am. I still choose who I am.
Thank you so much. I'm happy for that submission. And I want to just trick you a bit, tickle you a bit. I followed one of your programs on racism, and then you had some guests on the program who were vying for posts in the councils in Germany. And I said, wow, this is something to really emulate. How do they feel, or are they being voted equally for by the white Europeans who are with them in their different communities? Do they buy their ideas and vote for them? Because I think they are already Germans if they have to go in for council posts and for elections. Are they being voted just by blacks or whites equally follow them in their agenda?
No, they can't just be voted by blacks. It is a municipal election, it's a council election or city election. So therefore, everyone in the city is entitled to go and vote. Usually, most of the votes are unfortunately also from the Europeans, or the majority, and the majority are the Europeans, right? Not because the Africans don't want by all means to go vote, but the majority are the citizens from here. So, of course, they are being voted by the citizens from here. Now, the politics here in Europe or in Germany, particularly, is not like that of Africa. It's not a one man show. It's always an organization that is behind it. So it's an organization that backs up the people that go there, and therefore you don't just go and stand there as you. It's an organization that is behind you, backing you up, and of course, the people voting are voting for that organization.
Okay. Thank you so much. I was asking that question because I wanted us to be clear that racism actually is just a mentality, and that everybody, like you said, has full potentials. And you discover that somebody sometimes that you don't trust that will do something good actually comes out with flying colors. And thank you so much for that clarification. It is an organization that is going in, so no matter who is ahead, the organization is being voted for. In that case, no racism. So why continue with racism when all of us can do the things properly? Thank you so much. I am so happy you answered
Well,
that
I still have
question.
to add, yeah. But I have to add, we don't want to create some kind of, no. The
Yeah.
thing is, even before you get in there, if you observed our conversation with those politicians, you would have heard me say, the blacks are being represented in that community. It's
Yeah.
because we have very few blacks represented in the community, and it's because most people are not given the chance, right? So again, there's a manipulation of racism and discrimination that plays a great role, that some people are not given the chance to really be where they ought to be. So those few that got there, they had to work really extremely hard and really understood the rules of the game, and maybe
Mhm.
that's why they got there. And usually you have a lot of also, um, I call that also friends on purpose, so
Mhm.
that you can get in certain positions. That's why networking is so important, because if you know how to network, then you can get some of those positions and do some of those works.
Okay. Before I
But it
even
doesn't change the fact that there's no racism there.
Okay. Before I ask for your advice for those who are actually behind this work on racism, trying to create awareness, are there some difficulties that they face actually? Before I come to your advice, I want to see if they have some difficulties along the line trying to create awareness about racism, and equally going about with the programs and the activities against racism. What are some
Of
of the
course,
problems they
of
face?
of course, the topic of racism is a very challenging one. To be honest, who likes to be reminded of the fact that um, he's wicked? Who likes that? No one, right? Who likes to be reminded of the fact that he killed my parents, he killed my grandparents? Who likes to be reminded of the fact that they took some people as slavery, as slaves? Who likes to be reminded of the fact that they have committed injustice all the time? No one, right? Therefore, the conversation of racism is a difficult one. That's why many people don't want shy talking about it, because they only feel that we are raising topics that may point accusing fingers towards others, right? But we have to go out of that space and that sphere and start looking at things at the more at the societal level. We have to look at
Mhm.
it the community level, no longer at the individual level, because if we do not talk about it, then we are going to have a lot of problems. So yes, we have a lot of challenges. I mean, there's someone who is always writing when we have this conversation, will always write and say, stop talking about racism, right? So those are one of the challenges we have. When you talk about racism, often someone says, stop talking about it. Why do you keep talking about racism, right? Because people don't want to hear that difficult conversation. So yes, therefore,
Mhm.
those talking on such difficult topics also have a lot of challenges. I know many Africans who have gotten threats really, really life threatening. They have threatened their lives because of the aspect of talking about, talking against racism, right? So yes, those of us doing this work are really going through a lot of challenges. One of the challenges is that we face hindrances from those who don't want that we keep talking about it. We have also those that are unconscious or ignorant. I know ignorant is not an excuse for anything, who want to be ignorant and stay ignorant of the conversation, and therefore they would want you to keep quiet. We have also those who say, hey, you're too sensible, that's why you're talking about racism, so everything is not racism. And therefore we have to also be careful so that we don't, so you have to be talking about very sensitive topic and still
Mm.
stay yeah,
Neutral.
professional, right? And yes, you have to take the place of a victim, and the same time the place of yeah. So there's a lot of challenges going on when you have to talk and deal with such difficult conversations.
Okay, thank you so much. It's always an uphill task talking about something that almost 90% are for, and you are just 10% the minority against.
Mm,
Thank you so much, Mambera, for that powerful talk there on racism, which is coming to add more flesh to the topic that you already have. I just thought it wise that I call you up for this topic so that you can enlighten us, because some Africans don't understand what it is, or they may practice racism without being conscious that they are practicing racism. And then, after this while that you have been carrying out this program, and with the experience that you have had, and all the ideas that you have had, and the difficulties that you just listed now, what advice can you give, or encouragement can you give to other NGOs, other civil societies that are working towards creating awareness despite the slippery ground that they are working on? What can you tell them to keep their spirits up so that they should not relent creating this awareness?
mm. I think before I come to our stakeholders, to the people doing an amazing job, I want to say to the general people, to human beings, that please, the first thing that we all must do is learn our history. I am employing every African, every black person, every human being. Learn your history so you get to know your identity. So it doesn't matter what race you are, please get to learn your history. The simple fact of learning your history will put you on the right track, right? So let's say if Germans get to learn their history consistently, they will understand the history behind racism, and they will be aware of what had happened in the past, and they will adjust their steps, right? And if the Africans get to learn more of their history, they will understand also more about their strength and their power they are. So learn your history so that people don't come to tell you about a new history, give you a new identity. The second thing I want to encourage our people is that we should also build ourselves, build our economy. The whole thing centers again around resources, and therefore let the African people build their country, build their continent, build their economic. A people without their own economic, they are led to the other group of people again or whatever. So we have to build our economic. I want to take an example. If you are selling books and I am selling pap, and another company is selling, let's say, shoes. Now, you come to buy pap from me with €5. The €5 you gave to me for buying your pap, which was your food, I take that same €5. I'm going to buy a pair of shoes from that other African person with his own company.
Mm.
That €5, remember, it's the €5, it's the same €5 you gave to me, right? That is, I'm taking it to go to the other person's shop. Now, that other person takes that €5. He needs books for his children. He comes back to your shop again and buy books from you for €5, right?
Mm.
Now, the same €5 has gone round in the community three, four, five times, right? And when it goes round, it adds the value of everyone in that community. That is what Africans should be doing. That is what we should do. We must build economics, build businesses, be it small, big, large scales, it doesn't matter. But we must build economic systems so that the money circulates around us. Before it goes out, we have had enough of the value. Now, what happens now at this moment is when you take that your €5, you export some grease from Germany. Therefore, you send that €5 in Germany. It comes to Germany and it produces and it gives value where to Germany. And I am there. I don't have that your €5. You see the power of economic building and business creation. We should start creating businesses, and it doesn't matter how small it is, right? And therefore, if we know identity, we create businesses, we will be financially stable. And then, anytime we are financially stable, you decide how you cut your cake. You can choose to put the table as you want. No one dictates to you. Is that true? True. Now, back to your question, what we tell our people who are doing the work. We can only encourage them, like Mandela said, it is a fight that you have chosen. If Mandela was ready to die for that fight, if you start this fight, be ready to die for it. If you die because of justice, it's a good fight anyway. So many people have died in the past because of justice. And because they died for justice, their name remained as icons for life, right? So I think that I can only encourage them to continue the work and that we all must continue the work because if we do not do, someone will have to do. And if we do not tell our stories now, others will tell our stories. And each time another person tell your story, there's some fake in it. It's not usually the whole truth. Tell your own story with your own uh, thinking pattern, with your own way of doing with your own language so that the people can understand.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And if you had the last words for our youths who are going to different European countries, migrants dying in waters, and seeing equally facing racism when they get to the different countries that they go to, what would be your advice to these youths? Because we are basing on the youths. Agenda 2063 will actually fall on the youths, so we want them to be more involved. What advice will you give them? I am picking again from another program that you used to host, and that this one was in, and I know you have the youths at heart. What would be your last word if you had to say something to the youths?
I wish that before they ever took the journey from this Mediterranean Sea, that they had to hear me talk. That Europe can be a sinking ground for many people. And therefore, it is not who loves to be in Europe who is in Europe. It is actually who can fit in Europe who is in Europe. It's not a paradise. And therefore, if we can build our continent, let us build. Most of us, people wonder, I live almost in both countries, and I am strongly working hard so that I build the paradise where I want to build. And when I'm there, I just come for visit because maybe of my children that are going to be here. But even at that, I'm working that much so that I would transfer back my children. I mean, Joseph, when he was in Egypt, he went back his bones, right? So those who are here, I tell them, please, let not your bones go back. Go and develop and let your bones meet the development that you have started. And I told my
Let
husband this.
not Let not your bones go back, but you go back and develop your continent. Thank you so much. We are getting to the end of our program, and I want to thank Mam Vera for taking up time despite her so tight schedule to be with us this morning. You have been an enlightenment to many who have listened to you. And like you said, if those who had to travel to the Mediterranean Sea had to hear you talk, they would have thought differently and build ourselves, build our economy, build our country, begin businesses here in Africa, more grounds here in develop themselves in Africa. So thank you so being there with us. I'm so happy that you were there. You said Africans are people with full potentials. They need not be discriminated against. And we have dealt with the issue of discrimination today, and we have said it is not something to want to manage, it's not something to live with. We should refuse any form of discrimination. And you said equally that if you die because of justice, then you die for a good cause. I leave you with that word, and we'll be leaving you now while wishing that we have you again on Monday for another very interesting topic on the debate. We're going to leave you now, and goodbye to all of you. It was a nice day being with you. Bye bye.